The courtroom was silent. The air was thick with tension. Every eye in the room was locked onto the judge, who sat high on her bench, her lips curling into a cruel smirk. Judge Evelyn Hargrave was a woman feared for her sharp tongue and even sharper judgments. She thrived in moments like this, where she held absolute power, where her words could crush lives with ease. Today was no different. She leaned forward, peering down at the defendant, a black man in a wheelchair. His name, Darius Hayes. Pathetic, she sneered. A crippled thief. You disgust me. Can't even run. Yet you thought you could get away. Laughter rippled through the courtroom. Some of the jury members chuckled. Even the bailiffs exchanged amused glances. But Darius? He stayed quiet, his face unreadable. Judge Hargrave wasn't done. She tapped her gavel lightly against the desk. I should have known. People like you are always causing trouble. Her voice dropped lower, almost a whisper, but laced with venom. A disabled black man. What use are you to society? Gasps filled the room. Even the prosecutor's mouth fell open in shock. The judge had gone too far. But she didn't care. Let's get this over with, she sighed, rolling her eyes. The evidence is clear. You're guilty. She lifted her gavel. And that's when Darius did something no one expected. He stood up. The room froze. Mouths dropped open. The jury, the lawyers, the audience. No one could believe what they were seeing. Even the bailiffs, who had been standing casually by the doors, snapped to attention. Judge Hargrave's face drained of color. Her eyes bulged as she gripped the edges of her desk. What? Darius took a step forward. His movements were strong, confident. His eyes burned with a fire that sent chills down everyone's spine. And then he spoke. Judge Hargrave, he said, his voice deep and steady. Let me introduce myself properly. A pause. Darius pulled a badge from his pocket and held it up for all to see. The courtroom gasped. Judge Hargrave stumbled back in her chair, her breath coming in quick, panicked gasps. Darius stared straight into her horrified eyes and said the words that shook the entire room. I'm Agent Darius Hayes, FBI. 3 weeks earlier, Darius Hayes had never been an ordinary man. He was an FBI agent, one of the best. Smart, quick, fearless. He had taken down drug lords, arms dealers, and corrupt officials. But this mission was different. This time, he wasn't chasing criminals. He was hunting a judge, Judge Evelyn Hargrave. The FBI had received numerous reports about her. Whispers of corruption, cases where innocent people, mostly black and poor, were sent to prison with no real evidence. Murmurs of secret deals with prosecutors, lawyers, and even law enforcement. But there was no proof. She was careful, too careful. Until now, Darius's boss, Director Samuel Carter, had come to him with a plan. A risky one. You'll go undercover, Carter had said. Pose as a defendant in her court. A nobody. Someone she'll underestimate. Darius had agreed. And so the plan was set. He would fake a small-time crime, get arrested, get assigned to her courtroom, and then he would wait. He would let her show her true colors. Let her expose herself. It didn't take long. The moment Darius rolled into her courtroom in a wheelchair, she had looked at him with nothing but disgust. And every day after that, she made her feelings clearer. She mocked him. She ridiculed him. She belittled him in front of everyone. But Darius stayed quiet. He played his role. He listened. He watched. And he recorded. Hidden in the wheelchair were tiny cameras. Every insult, every racist remark, every illegal move she made, it was all captured. Evidence enough to destroy her career. Enough to send her to prison. But Darius wasn't done yet. He needed one final push. One last moment where she would fully reveal herself. So he waited. And today was that day. Judge Hargrave had just sealed her fate by openly mocking him. By declaring him guilty without proof. By showing the world her true self. And now, it was time for him to end the game. The arrest. Darius stood tall, his badge shining under the courtroom lights. Judge Hargrave, he said, his voice calm but firm. You're under arrest for corruption, abuse of power, and multiple violations of civil rights. The courtroom exploded. Gasps. Shouts. Judge Hargrave shot to her feet. You, this is a joke, this is... Before she could finish, the doors burst open. FBI agents stormed in, guns drawn. Judge Evelyn Hargrave, an agent barked. Put your hands where we can see them. Her face twisted in panic. She looked around wildly, as if hoping someone, anyone, would save her. No one moved. Her hands trembled. Her breath came in short gasps. She tried to speak, but no words came. Then, in one last act of desperation, she turned and ran. Judge Evelyn Hargrave ran. Her heels clicked wildly against the polished courtroom floor as she bolted toward the side exit. The once powerful judge, who had just moments ago mocked a man she thought was beneath her, was now running like a cornered rat. "Stop her!" one of the FBI agents yelled. The bailiffs hesitated. They'd spent years taking orders from her. But now, she was the criminal. Darius didn't move. He just watched. Calm. Steady. Judge Hargrave reached the side door. Her hands fumbled against the handle. Locked. She spun around, her chest heaving. The agents were closing in. Her eyes darted around the room, desperate for another escape route. The jury. The lawyers. The audience. Everyone was frozen in shock. No one would help her. Then, her gaze landed on something. A gun. One of the bailiffs, a young officer, had his hand near his holster, and she lunged. The room erupted. "Drop it!" an agent shouted. But Judge Hargrave wasn't listening. She ripped the gun from the bailiff's belt. Her hands shook as she raised it, her fingers slipping onto the trigger. The agents pulled their weapons. "Put the gun down," Evelyn, Darius commanded. Her eyes flickered to him, the man she had belittled, the man she thought was weak. Now, he stood before her. Tall, strong, unshaken. Her lips trembled. Her carefully built world was crashing around her. She had spent years holding power, years deciding the fate of others. And now, she was the one being judged. Her hand wavered. Then, she screamed and pulled the trigger. Bang! A shot rang out. Gasps. Screams. People ducked under benches, shielding themselves. For a moment, everything stopped. Then, Judge Hargrave staggered back. Blood bloomed across her shoulder. She had been shot. One of the agents had fired first. A clean shot. Non letal. The gun slipped from her fingers and clattered to the ground. She clutched her wound, her breaths sharp and ragged. Then, she fell to her knees. The agents rushed forward. She was done.